What's up, Gamecock fans? JC Shurburtt here with you, thebigspur.com, inside the Gamecocks, the show. Hope everybody had a happy holiday and are enjoying this week. I know that earlier this week, earlier today, I took my wife to work. She's the only person in the office. It took 12 minutes. It normally takes 40. So nobody's working in Chicagoland today, and it's cold and dreary and miserable, but lots of stuff heating up where the Gamecocks are concerned in the transfer portal for now. I think there's going to be a little bit of a lull. The Gamecocks are in Orlando, obviously preparing for the Citrus Bowl with Illinois Tuesday kickoff time, obviously 3 o'clock on ABC. Fifth time the Gamecocks been on ABC this year. I think that's a record for network television in South Carolina. But we we got you covered here on Chief Sports South Carolina, here, the YouTube page. Go hit that subscribe button if you can. It's free on the YouTube page. That helps us get these videos out to you and other great Gamecock fans and fans of other schools that want to check in on their opponents, which I know that they do by reading some of the comments on our page. So some news, supposed to happen Christmas Day, kind of came out yesterday, the day after Christmas. Myles Norwood, cornerback from Ball State, has signed with the Gamecocks. Gamecocks beat Kentucky and Louisville on him. If you're kind of wondering why Kentucky, Louisville, Ball State-ish were in the mix, those schools are close to home. He's from St. Louis, Missouri originally. And, like, well, Missouri and Kentucky, yeah, they share a little bit of a border. I've been down I-57 in Illinois through Kentucky down through Nashville, and Missouri's right there. And it's a quick highway ride over to St. Louis. So there's closer to home. Ball State obviously was close to home-ish. That's the reason he left New Mexico State. He's been to 5 different schools, and that on paper kind of would be a red flag normally. Maybe it is for some, I don't know. But here's how it kind of went down. He was at Iowa Western Junior College. He's a JUCO kid, track athlete. Got good enough to get a Power 4, Power 5 scholarship to Iowa State. Matt Campbell certainly knows how to evaluate talent. He's winning in Ames. They were in the Big 12 championship game again this year. Cyclones have a really good program under him. We all know who Matt Campbell is. And so that was good. And then he left Iowa State. I guess that didn't work out. Went to New Mexico State after Jerry Kill had left, spring of last year. Las Cruces, New Mexico is far from home. And Mike Morgan, who I do JC and Morgan with. By the way, apologize for no JC and Morgan yesterday. We got our schedules crossed up. I don't know when exactly we will do one, but we'll do one soon. You'll have one before we get back from break and back on full schedule. But just kind of Mike and Phil couldn't touch base. Yesterday was my birthday. So, I had some things I had to do in the afternoon and all that good stuff. So that's an aside for those of you that follow our regular programming here on Chief Sports South Carolina. And I had said yesterday there'll be a JC and Morgan later today, and there wasn't. So if you're disappointed, I'm flattered, but I wanted to bring that in. But Mike's been to a game, to call it, there in Las Cruces, and it's not. Let's just say it's very remote. That's why the kill zone was so awesome when he was winning there. And that's a big reason Vanderbilt won 6 games this year. That guy's kind of a magician. Diego Pavia obviously was there, but New Mexico State didn't work out for Myles Norwood. He goes back closer to home at Ball State, where he really played well this year. 38 tackles, 8 pass breakups, 2 tackles for loss. In the transfer portal, obviously a Power 4 guy, obviously a guy that some schools wanted. He did visit Kentucky and Louisville, again, closer to home. Came down to the Gamecocks and Wildcats. The Gamecocks won the battle. He's 6'1", 183 pounds, so he is taller. He's not a small guy. Kind of Fred Bennett size, I would dare to say. Frederick Bennett size. Remember Fred Bennett from back in the day, Gamecock fans? And he can run. This guy is fast. You remember the Top Gun line? I feel the need for speed. And look, man, I understand completely why coaches want length and height and all that wonderful stuff at cornerback, because receivers are these big freaky guys now. And Myles Norwood has that. He's 6'1", like I said. But dude, if you don't have a guy that can run, dudes and dudettes, actually, because we do have a female audience. It's about 7%. Dudes and dudettes, if you can't run, you're dead. You just got to have speed. This guy's got outstanding speed. Hal McGranahan reported he may come in as one of the fastest guys on the roster, and South Carolina's got a lot of fast players. So that's encouraging. That sold me right away when I read that. And then you throw in the fact that he is 6'1". He does have the length. And on film, you watch him and run support, and this is a big deal. This is a big deal because around here, South Carolina, we haven't always seen the physicality at corner like maybe you did back in the day from a Sheldon Brown and Andre Goodman, or maybe Stephon Gilmore, or when you had J.C. Horn was really good on the perimeter tackling. You hadn't seen that. Teams would really get after South Carolina on the perimeter with outside runs, screens, things like that. This year, if you watch the corners at South Carolina, Swain, Collier, Fortune, those guys, they would come up and blow it up. It's almost to the point where teams stopped trying to attack them out there. I know some teams did, and I'm not saying that every single time they stopped them and every single time they didn't miss a tackle, but boy, that for the most part, that was much improved. Perimeter tackling, perimeter blocking, anything on the perimeter this season at South Carolina on both sides of the ball, I thought was much improved. And so you look for that too. Is this guy going to be tough enough in the SEC where they will put a freak receiver or tight end or pull a lineman out there on you to fight through that and make tackles? Can you blow up plays? And he shows some of that on film. I didn't see a bunch of it, but it's kind of a, here are the best plays kind of thing. But I saw enough to know this guy's not scared. He's going to come in there and stick his nose in there, doesn't shy away from contact. So you got the speed, you got the length. You believe based on what you've seen in the toughness. He was at Iowa State, which obviously has a good track record of evaluating. And when you kind of explain the 5 schools thing, really, the New Mexico State thing, I don't know. Basically, what you're saying is he had to go to JUCO. Things didn't work out at Iowa State. He had an opportunity to go back closer to home from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Played really well, and they could get in the portal, go make some NIL money, and come to an SEC school. I do understand the hesitancy. And when you look at 5 schools, that's a lot. That's one of those things these days that may drive you crazy about college football, but I think it'll pay off. When you look at the cornerback room, I do think there was a need for a corner this year because you're losing O'Donnell Fortune. Judge Collier will be back. Vicari Swain's expected back. Jalewis Solomon played nickel this year, but he's a corner. Obviously was highly touted coming in. But you need depth. You got Emory Floyd, who still hadn't played a whole lot. Serviceable guy back there. And then after that, you sort of need numbers. And they signed some guys in this class in the defensive backfield, but a lot of those guys project as safeties. I do think Chris Hatfield from Georgia, 6'3.5" guy. Wouldn't be surprised if he started out at corner some. He's a bigger guy, but he's sort of a developmental player. So you're going to have to kind of wait on him a little bit. I'd be surprised if he got in the 2 deep first year. So you need an older guy. If you get a guy that can run, if you get a guy with the length, all that good stuff like I talked about. The other good thing about Myles Norwood is he's got 2 years. So let's say Judge Collier, who took a huge leap from year 1 to year 2, takes another huge leap from year 2 to year 3, and he's all SEC or whatever. Everybody needs corners so bad at all levels of football. That guy could go pro, and then you don't have him. Vicari Swain would be draft eligible next year. So having a guy for 2 years, 2 is always better than 1 when you're hitting the transfer portal. And who knows, Myles Norwood maybe, obviously he's draft eligible if he's been to 5 schools, but Myles Norwood could end up being that guy. I don't know, but it's always good to have guys with extra eligibility rocking and rolling in your class. And, so I think this is a nice piece. Torian Gray has a long track record of being good at evaluating corners and safeties. He's picky. I'll be honest. He sometimes he'll pass on a guy, and you're like, well, why? And he's right. He ends up being right about it. And I think that's very refreshing because there's been times around here in the past where they've passed on a guy and he's been pretty good, or they've taken a guy and he hasn't been. He's tall, but he can't run. And this guy can do all that. So I'm confident in the evaluation that Torian Gray can make. I mean, he's doing the same thing he did at Virginia Tech. He can take your 4 and 5 star guys, turn them into NFL guys. He can take your 2 and 3 star guys, turn them into NFL guys. It doesn't matter. Guys that get with the program with him end up doing very, very well. That's Torian Gray, the Gamecocks secondary coach. Big, big, big time hire by Shane Beamer. Been here 4 years. Obviously, Darius Rush, NFL. Cam Smith, NFL. Marcellus Dow, NFL. O'Donnell Fortune will be NFL. And those guys weren't always tracking to be NFL guys. He developed them. And so I tend to trust him on situations like this. And quite frankly, with Hatfield and whoever else they want to play at corner too. But I do recognize there was a need there, and zeroing in on this kid, Myles Norwood, or this guy, young man, young person. Myles Norwood was actually a good call now that you kind of read into him and all that good stuff. St. Louis, Missouri is where he's from. Gamecocks, first player from St. Louis area since Kyle Markway. Mason Love is from Missouri as well. He's from Kansas City. That's the other side of the show me state. So another guy from Missouri, and lots of great geographic balance, I think, in here. In the portal class, you got this guy's from St. Louis, Missouri. Newsome is from Memphis, Tennessee. So there's another state. Aaron Nolan's from Atlanta in Georgia. Jalen Brown's from the state of Alabama. That's good. Nick Sharp is offensive guard from North Carolina. So lots of different states being represented in this portal class so far. And I like that. I think that the formula at South Carolina, as I've always said, is go cherry pick the best players you can from wherever you can. Focus on South Carolina as your primary area. Do what you got to do out of Georgia and get that next tier of guys, because there's going to be half of them that are better than the guys that go to Georgia. Maybe, let me back up. Maybe a third. Georgia does pretty well. Georgia's more selective in their state under Kirby than maybe they were under Rick. So there's more availability of good players that have a chance out of that state. Recruit North Carolina as well as you can right now. There's some headwinds in that state. And then find other spots like Virginia, Maryland, D.C., where you're the closest SEC school, so you can go compete for that 5-star out of high school. And then you hit the portal and backfill needs and make good evaluations. And heck, I like the fact the last 2 commits have come from Western Kentucky and Ball State. I think that's a big thing nobody talks about. There's not a lot of hype out there about it. But if you look in the NFL, I don't want to say guess, if you evaluate right and you make the right decisions on these lower level guys, which South Carolina is probably batting about 800 doing so far, you can make a living doing that with really good players that nobody sees coming, and they're hungry to prove themselves. So that's another good point, is you got some hunger there. You want to go out and do it. And it doesn't mean the guys from bigger schools are not hungry. I mean, you look at Rocket Sanders this year. Look at Monkel Goodwine from Alabama and how hard he worked this season. He was at Alabama. So it's not always that way that you have to have these lower level guys, but I think it is helpful, and it kind of feeds into that whole culture thing and all that good stuff when you're putting together a roster to go compete in the Southeastern Conference. And then, of course, Clemson is always on the schedule as well. So it's 9 challenging games every year out of the 12. Next year, Coastal's on the schedule. SC State's on the schedule. All the non-conference games are against in-state foes at Williams-Brice, and Clemson comes in, and then, of course, Virginia Tech and Atlanta. So it's another solid slate next year, and you got to have players to go compete. And so I like that. I can also report to you today that on Bam Martin Scott, Chris Hummer from 24/7 Sports and a contact at South Carolina did talk to me about this when the ruling was passed. Okay, so the NCAA, right? We love them. So you have what's called a clock that starts, and it starts whenever you start playing, get out of high school and start blah 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 blah. And with Bam Martin Scott, he started 2019. Diego Pavi started in 2020. So the ruling is narrow and affects those guys that are like 2020 and later. They don't overrule the clock unless there's a medical hardship. I do not know if Bam Martin Scott qualifies for a hardship at the moment. I'd have to go back and look at the seasons he's had. I know he did redshirt at South Carolina one year. I just don't know. I don't feel good about it though. Things like this don't always go the Gamecocks' way, any kind of appeal or anything like that. But I don't know what the way the rule is now that's the case. Now, Bam Martin Scott could always get a lawyer and go see if they can get another injunction. Um, that'd be good for Carolina. I don't know if it'd be good for the game. It's good for Carolina though. So we'll see. Also with Myles Norwood, I don't know. Uh, that ruling is for this year, so I don't know that maybe if it gives him another year. It depends on kind of how the case goes. If he may have another year since he spent time at Iowa Western, um, I'm not sure how all that would work, but there is a chance. I would guess that's legalese though, and I don't know. Court TV can explain that, right? So anyway, really a good pickup with Myles Norwood, adding to what will be a pretty talented secondary next season at South Carolina, especially at corner. Obviously, the 2026 class, it's time to get some corners in on the back end. You know, you're kind of looking around for that next big time guy to bring in from the high school level, like a Cam Smith type or a Judge Collier type. I know he wasn't highly rated, but that's a Rock Hill defensive back, man. You take him. And so we'll see kind of how the Gamecocks get going at corner in this forthcoming recruiting cycle. All right. Once again, appreciate you guys tuning in. These videos have been really popular, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to me yammer on and on about it. Hopefully they're short and brief and you get a lot out of them. Maybe that will continue them once we kick the show back off. Inside the Gamecocks, the show will kick back off January the 6th. Regularly scheduled 11 to 2 Eastern every single day, Monday through Friday. Myself, Jamie Bradford, Phil Mad Dog Mullinax. Then we have other co-hosts, Mike Morgan, Chad Holbrook, Matt Anderson, the late night Gamecock himself. And so we're all going to be back with our cast of characters very, very soon. Talked to JB about 10 minutes before I got on here about he's about to go. He's leaving for SeaWorld in Orlando on Sunday with his family. And we were talking about this stuff, and it's probably a good idea to continue to do some sort of other content outside the normal show and, really serve you guys and kind of be that YouTube go-to when it comes to Gamecock sports moving forward. So we'll see what happens with all that. One more announcement with regards to programming here at Chief Sports South Carolina. On the morning of the bowl, morning of New Year's Eve, we will have with Mad Dog and myself the Tailgate Show, the final Tailgate Show of the season. It's a lot of fun doing the Tailgate Show. The chat box is wide open for that. You do not have to be a Club Chief member to participate in that. JB is going to join us for a little bit from Atlanta. We're going to have Doozy, one of our resident Illinois experts, join us to talk a little about the Fighting Illini and maybe some other special guests. Tailgate shows usually like 50 minutes, maybe go an hour and 15, hour and 20, but all your favorite songs and all that good stuff and your reports and all that as we continue to talk about the battle between the Gamecocks and the Fighting Illini coming up on New Year's Eve. Big game for Carolina. Could be 10 wins, and I don't think anybody would have predicted that at the beginning of the season. I thought it was possible. I thought too many potholes in the schedule, and it's hard to get a team up every single week when you're playing quality competition, as we saw with some of the losses Alabama and Ole Miss took. And, Turned out Carolina was highly motivated and played pretty well. Wasn't always perfect. Missouri and Clemson games certainly could have gone the other way, but they found a way and won in different ways. And I think that's a good football team, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. So we'll see what happens against the Fighting Illini and my boy BD Belima. I hate it. First Notre Dame, now my wife's team, now this. But you guys know what outcome I'll be hoping for coming up in the Citrus Bowl next Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. Get this up for you guys and gals, and again, appreciate everything you guys do. Myles Norwood in the boat, nice pickup. Oh, one more thing before I sign off. Contacts indicate that Gamecocks aren't done in the portal. There's a whole bunch of activity that will take place after the new year. Still need a DT, still need a running back, still need maybe a wide receiver. Keep an eye on Donovan Green from Wake Forest. In that instance, he got in the portal officially today. So just keep an eye on some of these players. Gamecocks aren't done yet, and we'll be right here to keep you posted on what happens. Also, be sure 24 hours a day. You don't want to wait on a video. Join thebigspur.com. Use code BIGSPUR50 to get a significant discount on an annual membership. If you want to join full price, $9.99 a month or an annual, you get Paramount Plus for free. That means you get to watch Landman, which is one of the best shows, Yellowstone, Lioness, all those good shows from Taylor Sheridan that live on Paramount Plus. And, those of you out there that are married, that are men, your wives probably watch a lot of shows. And that's kind of a way to say, hey, I'm going to join this cool website that covers my favorite team. I can get inside scoop and talk to cool people like JC and Whittle and Tony and all that all day. And she won't mind because we get Paramount Plus for free. So it's a household decision. And I used to get cancels all the time. Wife won't let me do it anymore. Okay, understand. Not so much for Paramount Plus is part of it now. So that's good for us. Anyway, check it out, thebigspur.com. Thank you so much again for being a part of Chief Sports South Carolina right here. Appreciate all the comments and all that good stuff. And we will holla at you guys later.